I don't really want to talk about this for that much longer, but I feel like I owe it to you guys to do so, and especially go over a couple of things that I said in the past already. Not because I want to lecture you or tell you how you must feel about a tragedy like this, but really for my own sake. Let me explain. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police officer. I'm not even an expert when it comes to firearms, truthfully. I'm just a guy. I'm a conservative guy, no doubt, but just a guy and imperfect. And no matter what my politics may or may not be, I find it even more important just to myself to be consistent about the Second Amendment, which is what we talk about on this channel. Let's talk about Alex Pretti. But first, before I get started, if you have not checked out my podcast, the Behind Enemy Lines show, we talk about everything Second Amendment related here in the great state of New Jersey. My last episode was with Vlad Vival, who is an excellent and well-known firearms instructor with threat reflex. You will definitely love that episode. We go over gear. We go over how important it is to train while concealed carrying here in New Jersey. Also, if you have not seen it yet, you can now become a supporting member of the J Casa USA YouTube channel for just a couple bucks a month. Hit the join button down below. You can get different features when it comes to commenting on videos. I will also start giving you some early access to the podcast and the videos coming up soon. So if you're interested, you want to help out the channel, it's greatly appreciated. Just click that join button down below. Now, let's get started on the Alex Pretti situation. So you may or may not already know, just a little background for me. I love most of President Trump's agenda, including the legal deportations of people who are breaking the law in our country. Over half the country voted for this last year, and truth be told, the operation could be much larger. We all know that President Obama,
if you're a criminal, you'll be deported.
The deporter-in-chief, deported many more illegal immigrants and also put them into cages, mind you, than President Trump has. Yet the media wants us all to be outraged when President Trump is doing it. There is nuance and context with everything in life, and this situation is no exception. That being said, you can freely disagree with anything and everything I say and put in this video or anywhere else. You just have to comment down below what it is that you disagree with and why. And I can change my mind if you show me evidence. Everything in this video is my own opinion based on the evidence that I see. And frankly, it doesn't mean that I'm right. I truly believe this is a situation where two reasonable minds could very well disagree. With that out of the way, let me start with my first and most important point. The Second Amendment is for everybody. The Second Amendment is a natural right to self-defense that we are all born with, not given by government. That means that my right and your right to self-defense is no different at all than Alex Pretti's, even though I think that his worldview destroys our country. Just because you're carrying a firearm at a protest does not mean that you are there to inflict maximum damage on law enforcement or any damage for that matter, even with 2 magazines and dozens of rounds, as some Republicans have claimed.
The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds.
The people saying that are either unaware of the true meaning of a right to keep and bear arms, or they're just politicians in major damage control and simply lying to save face. Heck, if I went to a protest, I would almost definitely be carrying as long as it was lawful. Am I looking to inflict maximum damage on law enforcement? And this brings us to a more broad issue in the Second Amendment community right there. I think there is a middle ground here that we can have in our Second Amendment community. An environment that respects our right to defend ourselves while also respecting law and justice. Of course, I disagree that if someone is carrying a firearm that they are due to get shot by law enforcement. Ever, period, full stop. But in the same breath, I can also not believe that law enforcement is always the enemy just because I'm a Second Amendment advocate. There was actually a recent poll done showing that over 90% of law enforcement officers actually support the right of citizens, civilians, to conceal carry. So the narrative that these are the tyrants that we always rant and rave and are concerned about, I don't really buy. That doesn't mean to blindlessly follow law enforcement no matter what, but law enforcement carrying out legal immigration orders that are not new is not a threat to the Second Amendment, at least in my view. To support this, I will point to the Declaration of Independence. Now, many people on all political sides and all political spectrums like to cite the part of the Declaration where it mentions abolishing the government, as long as it fits their narrative. But remember what it says right after that part. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their security. Does this sound like it is describing ICE or Customs and Border Patrol policy at the moment? You may think it does. Let me know why in the comment section. The first time I saw these videos of Mr. Pretti's death, frankly, I felt sad. I personally don't celebrate death, period. I just don't. Even the most evil among us on this earth, I just can't, for some reason, bring myself to it. That doesn't mean I don't celebrate justice, but all of us are created in the image of God. I believe that. And the FAFO crowd reaction didn't sit well with me. I just derided a large part of the country for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death less than a year ago. How can we be such hypocrites and do the same? Frankly, I think this is a result of our society devaluing life in many, many different ways, but that could be a topic for another video. If I only believe in the natural right to self-defense for some of us and not for all, well, clearly I don't actually stand for anything other than my own team. And I never truly believed it was a God-given right in the first place. And no, I don't care that he didn't have his ID and his carry permit on his person. Once again, we must be consistent. We can't complain about what our state of New Jersey makes us go through in order to get these carry permits. Yet also, when something like this happens, use that as a reason or to justify what happened to him in any way. In these videos that we've all seen, Mr. Pretti was there to protest as well as deter, I think it's safe to say, federal law enforcement from doing their legal duties. I think that's pretty clear. I say deter because we do know now that he was involved in these signal group chats tracking ICE and Border Patrol movement and operations in order to obstruct. Like, that was the point. Now, as more information came out, including a second video from 11 days prior showing Mr. Pretti spitting on a federal agent, kicking in their vehicle's taillight, and screaming, "Assault me, MFer," this painted a clearer picture to me of someone who wasn't just a kind-hearted VA nurse who you'd love to see your daughter marry, as CNN wants you to believe, but rather someone who is clearly at least capable of agitating law enforcement. This was 11 days prior, and this does not justify him getting killed in any way, shape, or form. It just gives context to the situation. Plus, keep in mind, even though the second video does show a clear aggressive demeanor, and he probably should have been arrested that day, and it possibly would have saved his life, in neither of these videos did he ever grab or brandish his firearm in any way that I can see. But his behavior with the firearm is another story. Now, this brings me to my second point, the responsibility attached to carrying a firearm. Those of us that carry around a firearm every day take on a responsibility that is not to be taken lightly, guys. It's our responsibility to de-escalate at all costs and avoid confrontation at all costs unless it's a last resort. Everything Mr. Pretti did on the day of his death, I was okay with from a rights perspective until he put his arm in between the woman and the federal agent. Now, before you jump down my throat, I want you all to do something right now. Close your eyes and imagine yourself at a protest of your choosing while carrying concealed with tensions very, very high. Imagine putting your hand on an officer you know is armed and they don't know who you are, what your intentions are, that you have a loaded firearm in your waistband. If any of you decided to do that, in that moment, you all would know you just took a massive risk. You might try to justify it as he was just trying to help the woman who was shoved, or he was just being a good person, but frankly, that doesn't matter. You get in between a federal agent, a law enforcement agent of any kind, and someone else while carrying concealed a firearm, your chances of getting shot go up exponentially. I'm not a law enforcement officer, as I mentioned, I'm not a lawyer, but what I do is I do carry every day. I know what I signed up for. I know the risks involved and the trade-offs that we all agree to in order to safely exercise those rights to keep and bear arms, and that's one of them. That is the risk. What I cannot confidently comment on is the conduct of the officers in the deadly scene, at least not from a legal perspective. Morally, sure. I don't know proper protocols in law enforcement and what precisely they failed on. It's very easy for Aunt Karen on Facebook to call it an execution when in reality, she doesn't have the slightest clue. That being said, I think it's pretty safe to say that they failed on something, if not multiple things, because to my untrained eyes and ears, that scene just looked flat out bad and negligent. You have like 5 or 6 Border Patrol guys on top of Mr. Pretti. It seems like Pretti was probably resisting arrest to some capacity in the scrum, but it seems like not enough where he'd be seen any deadly threat to the officers. They were punching him, hitting him with canisters. It was just freaking ugly. Now, how negligent precisely, I don't know, and we will see based on more information that comes out in the future. Then, what was so interesting or weird to me was when the agent, the border agent with the gray jacket, disarms Pretti, kind of like awkwardly jogs away from the scene like he stole his friend's lunch money, and a second later, bang, right? A brief pause, then multiple other shots go right through Pretti. I know you all came to hear whether I think this was justified. Well, this is where the rubber meets the road for me, right here in that moment. Where did that first shot come from? Now, it is yet to be proven with many different theories out there, but I believe, based on what I see, could be wrong, but I believe that there's evidence that Pretti's gun, a SIG P320, had a negligent discharge while it was in the agent's hands while he withdrew from the scene. It's hard to tell. It kind of looks like his arm is, going back a little bit. There is a frame, but it's very blurry of maybe the slide going back. But if this happened, this is part of that more information that we will get in the future. No matter how ugly or messy that scrum was, I could see the agents getting spooked from that shot, truthfully. If they think one of their brothers is in danger, I could see them. I could see them being justified. I could. Remember, law enforcement is not held to the same standard as we would be in these situations. They use what's called the objective reasonableness test rather than the subjective intent or hindsight. This means the force used must be reasonable from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene. So you have to consider like the rapidly changing and evolving circumstances of what's going on, allowing for these split-second judgments. Now, on the contrary, if the first shot was from the same agent that ultimately shot and killed Mr. Pretti, then it just got a whole lot more ugly. I don't know how much from a legal perspective. I don't know what threshold would need to be cleared, but just on a morality level, that seems like a level of severe negligence where someone would probably have to serve prison time, and whoever shot first could be charged with murder. And I know in my initial post, both on here as well as Instagram, I said he wasn't murdered. I retract that, not because I think he was. I just think that was a mistake to say at the time, and I simply don't know yet based on the current information and evidence. I'm not ready to say that, even though I did already. So I retract that. I reserve judgment in the future, and I apologize for that. Now, clearly, federal agents could have done many different things much better here. They, in my view, escalated the situation more than what was necessary based on, the limited video that we have. There could have been a whole bunch of stuff that happened prior that we just don't know. And even more importantly, the communication between the agents just seemed awful. I know it's very easy to look back on these things frame by frame, but once Mr. Pretti was disarmed, this does not seem to be effectively communicated at all. And if it was, it would probably have saved his life. Both Mr. Pretti and federal agents made poor decisions multiple times in like a 10-second window that led to a big mistake which could have been avoided. I have someone to lay a lot of blame on, maybe the most amount of blame, and that's neither Mr. Pretti or the federal agent. Because when I was watching that video, one thing that was so painfully obvious and missing to me was local law enforcement was not there. You see, I don't know much about the training protocols of Border Patrol and or ICE, but I would bet that they are much less equipped to deal with things like rioters and protesters, even just normal crowd control, than local law enforcement would be. You drop federal immigration enforcement into a chaotic environment with no local police support or cooperation, with lawlessness surrounding you. This is the environment that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Alex Frey have created and supported and incentivized. Because here is the truth. Did you know that almost 30% of immigration enforcement happens in the state of Texas? Why do we never hear about stories like this happening in Texas? Well, I would argue it's because their law enforcement, local law enforcement, is actively cooperating and working with federal law enforcement to enforce pre-existing immigration law. So while we bicker on our side about what the Second Amendment really is about, or whether or not we still support Donald Trump, the real ones to blame here get off scot-free while they get to pander to the voter base that they are the grown-ups in the room and to vote them into power to bring back normal decency or whatever. Ironically, or maybe not so ironically, once they get into power, they're the ones that put these chaotic and failed open border policies in effect, which created this problem in the first place. So I ask my fellow Second Amendment advocates, even if you totally disagree with me on this issue, don't take the bait. Don't believe them. Don't side with them, because they will lie about anything if it helps to push their radical agenda forward. And part of that radical agenda is violating your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms and to the natural right of self-defense. This includes our own favorite and former Attorney General, Matthew Platkin, who posted on X calling Alex Pretti a hero while trying to protect us while concealed carrying. So concealed carrying is now a sign of a hero to New Jersey Democrats, yet they fight against and infringe our Second Amendment rights at every turn. Heck, even when I was running for office and I'm a nobody, the New Jersey Democrats sent out a mailer calling me a right-wing gun extremist who teaches you all how to build illegal assault rifles for the same reason. So which one is it? At the end of the day, there is still more, probably a lot more to learn about this tragedy, but the biggest thing that I have learned so far is that, frankly, our society may be cooked. We all see what we want to see and live in our own echo chambers to some degree. I'm afraid that the idea of having rational thought is just about over. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you disagree or agree, let me know why. I would love to start a conversation with you, because I'm not even telling you I'm right. This is just how I feel. After thinking about it for a week or however long it's been, this is kind of where I landed. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know what you think. I appreciate it so much, as always, for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Keep fighting.